Welcome, everybody, and good evening. All right, B, why don't you take it away?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, please put your flippers together for our very next special guest. He's nuttier than a Collins Street fruitcake and cooler than Falcon Fajita and Torchy the Taco King. He's the big boss with the special hot sauce. Yum, yum, get you some of these flambéed birds served with flair beyond words. He's the big bear Texas dandy who's all candy and no floss when he grips and rips for the mega toss. He's the drifter from the high plain with a hall pass from Mark Twain, the beastly polymorph from Bettendorf, that all-American birthplace of NFL players, mixed martial and media artists. A Beck, a Fleck, a young skeeter, and this freak of nature, and a friend of man who sharpened his panther claws on a DX cheetah while living out of a van. He's never a manic chucker or a major league shanker, for it's all widespread panic and leisurely frolics on the verdant banks of the river of life, hand in hand with his best friend, partner, and wife. So give us a rebel yell, a rebel Yeti yell, ho, for the purple and the gold and the beauties and the bold of Who Dat Nation. Joining us from his little homestead in the hills, all greased up with a Free Birds monster burrito and loose as a goose after a double margarita. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the tea, Jay Yeti Redding. That's it. That's the one right there.
What is up, Mr. B? That was a beautiful introduction. Mace Man, my man.
What's up, buddy? How are you, man?
I stumbled there a little bit.
I'm doing fantastic. So good to see you guys. Holy cow.
Great.
I saw you from across the room last week, but there was just too many people to catch up with everybody.
Wasn't that amazing, Mace? I mean, the last time I was in Flagstaff was 2003. So there we are 20 years later.
Right. And I went to the AM. I guess it was in between. So, and then, and that's, I'll just start off with the story real quick. Jerry Gotcher got me into disc golf. He also got a guy named Gary Bennett into disc golf. And Gary went to University of Northern Arizona probably 3 or 4 years after we all started golfing, mid-90s, I guess it was. And it was while Hawk was still running the world's biggest. And Gary organized a world's biggest on a temporary course there, and I don't know exactly where that was, but they set some kind of, I believe they set a record. We'll find out when we have Halcon in a few weeks, but they did win the 9-hole course for the most people at a temporary course on the world's biggest weekend, and that was the original 9 on Thorpe. And so that's what started golf. So one of my disc golf brothers, like truly, like Jerry got us both into golf, and maybe even on the same day, but certainly the same week at Veterans out here in Arlington. And then he went on and he got that 9-hole and started, and then that's what started golf in Flagstaff.
Wow.
So wait a second. So are you saying Jerry actually went to?
No. This guy named Gary Bennett.
Okay. Wow. That would have been too full circle, because I haven't talked about Jerry Gotcher in years. And I just mentioned his name to Amy Moser when Mike and I were playing around, because she was thrifting and I mentioned Jerry thrifting, and she was like, wow, I haven't heard that name forever. And you know how that chain and cycle goes.
For sure. But yeah, so Jerry's well, I'll see Jerry later this summer. He's in Troy. He'll be out and he'll make at least an appearance on Sunday in Rock Hill, if not Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, fantastic. Of course, we plan on being out there. 25 amazing big years out at Rock Hill at the Winthrop Coliseum. So,
dude, I already got Schwebby, Snap Conger, and George Sappenfield scheduled for live interviews on site in Rock Hill, and I'm fishing for a couple other big ones, so we'll see what happens.
Well, there's 3 days worth right there, so I think you might be covered.
Well, we're thinking about doing one in the morning and one in the afternoon, but we'll see.
Well, cool. I love what you guys are doing. Thanks for talking to some of the old dogs and getting some of our cool stories out there. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's been a great bit of fun for us, that's for sure.
Before we get too far into this, let's just serve up for our viewing public, the poor unfortunate souls who may not have an idea who our guest is, or this, what we like to say, the framework, so we can put everything in context here.
All right, so you're originally from Bettendorf, Iowa. and now you're living in the hill country in Wimberley, Texas, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been in Texas since about 2002.
That's good.
Permanently, I guess residence is 2008.
Nice.
But
Right on.
always a native Iowan, you know, I bleed the
Oh,
corn for sure.
of course you do.
Of
And you
course
know,
you
that's
do.
there's a lot of that MMA from over there in your part of Iowa as well.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah,
We're
Pat
gonna-
Miletich, he's a Bettendorf grad, and you know, in our early days, our paths crossed quite a few times. And you know, a hilarious old school story was here in a little village inn, you know, a little breakfast chain there. One morning we see Pat and then another buddy that worked at one of the schools as a security at a school that I had worked at, and he actually was a trainer assistant for one of Miletich's gyms there. And eating breakfast with them was one of the Silvas, who was a world champion at the time. Des was a world champion. I mean, we had, you know, 4 world champions in this little village inn from 3 different sports. And it was like, yeah,
Nice.
Bettendorf, Iowa.
That's cool. Right on, man. All right, so I'm gonna run down a few things and we'll stop and talk a little bit about it, and then we'll run through some more because there's a lot to run through here. So you're 2006 Open Doubles champ, 02, 06, 08 Pro World Mixed Doubles champs with your wife Des. 6-time PDJ World Putting champ. Just got to pick up another one of those last week, right? Those are 08, 09, 10, 11, 14, and 23. So what's with the gaps? I mean,
Well, you know, this year was old dudes, you know, so I hopefully I'll pick up you know, an overall one there out in Vermont this year against the open players. But you know, that's kind of weird with it. We're not all together anymore, so we're split up. So I don't know how, you know, there's 5 legit ones against all the best putters in the world. So
well, we'll be I can't, the details aren't all ironed out of that, but out of this, but there'll also be a well, I guess I'm not sure. I'll just have to hold that one for a second. We got a big putting contest coming up at USDGC, but I'm not sure about all the details. There's multiple divisions, but I don't know that you can go up against the open players in that. I don't think that'll be the case. But
We
anyways,
might have to just have an all-time
there will be a
challenge.
open's open,
spectator.
right? I mean, anybody can play open.
There'll be a spectator. Well, and see, and that's going to be well. There's some details that have to be ironed out of this contest because, you know what happens at Winthrop. People come up with other reasons. Oh, this is why it should be like this. Oh, well, that's kind of hard to argue with. Anyways,
You're talking about disc golf?
yeah, maybe. So at 50 years old, you're still sporting 1,000 plus rating. What is that rating?
Currently like 988.
Uh-oh.
But I was
Never mind.
1,000, you know, somewhere in there at 50. I'm 52 now.
That's pretty good.
You know, another knee injury, blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah. I mean, it's you know,
Oh,
1,000.
wait. I see. You were still
To add-
sporting a 1,000 rating back then. Still,
Yeah.
998 at 52 is good, plus injuries. You're still getting a lot of events in. 5 top 25 PDJ World Open finishes, 31 top 5 Open A-tier finishes, 20 top 10 National Tour Open finishes, 4 top 5 Masters World finishes, 4 top 3 US Masters Championships finishes, 21 professional wins in 2021. That's pretty impressive. And then international open wins in the Bahamas, New Zealand, and Australia, international masters wins in Canada and New Zealand. There's that's a little bit to talk about there. That's pretty impressive. I mean,
That is.
I don't even know which one to
Nice.
pick out of that list.
I like the 1,000 rated at 50. That was you were, and we're gonna get into your playing career, but there's a really interesting each first event that you win per division. Your first pro event, then to your first pro MP40 win, to your first MP50 win. The stakes are getting higher and higher as the older you get. So you're just aging like a fine wine. You're just hitting the pocket right in a nice part of the scene.
No, that's a good point, B. I mean, I forget, when I did hit that mark, I was kind of like, it feels, man, there's not a lot in this club. And I did end up looking it up, and it is actually a fairly short list, and it's all the legendary players that you kind of would have thought. Um, but there's not, it's a very short and exclusive list. So, something for people to think about as they do age, that's keeping that and maintaining a rating at that high level takes a lot of dedication and work, and a solid overall game. And I think, if I were to describe my game in a nutshell, in fact, I mean, Dave Dunapace described my game as if nothing else, consistent. I've always been a very consistent player. Obviously, with the putting, world titles, those really come in from, my entire athletic career was all football driven until it wasn't. And then, at that point, anything else I went into, I brought my football body into, which included, broken helmets and busted knees and everything else. And so I never really was a far thrower. And having played golf as a junior, I knew, I could hit it a country mile, but boy, it was so hard to put that ball into the cup. That disc golf, same type of situation. So I really harnessed the short game, and it really paid off dividends. Nowadays, it's so amazing to see the disc golf pro tour and the level of play that's going on there, because the distance that the youth are generating and the technology of the disc has now made these courses almost inaccessible to a player like myself, who was always that deadly accurate from 350 to 400. And now if you don't have 450, game over.
Well,
And
it's not only that, it's not only
so everyone can
450,
putt.
but it's deadly accuracy at 450 and beyond, even at this point too. I mean, that's something that we've mentioned in a couple different people before you've been on. And I saw when the first time I took Zane to Winthrop, and he throws off a 12, and he throws down there in the draw, almost like on a rope, throws down way past the sidewalks, the trees to the right there, and he's still looking at a hyzer that he can easily make. And in anger, he goes back to his bag and grabs that disc's partner, does exactly the same thing. And I'm like, I'm only going to be a little bit further than that after my second shot. And, and like, how are you supposed to design to keep that? Like, how do you design a course to keep those guys happy and then everybody else? And I don't think it's possible. I mean, people, that's a tough game. You know what I mean? And I don't think that everybody wants to play that. I mean, I like it, but at the same time, I also like short tees. I'm 56,
I'm not going to remember the year, but it was just a few years ago. So there's only a few courses out there left that really do this. And I wish I'd been to Nokia, because it seems that although a lot of those gotta-getters are actually in that 360 to 425 range, that's a course where accuracy plays, key number one. And so does Winthrop. And so the last time I played the USDGC, again, I think I was 48, maybe 49, but I cashed. And it was a pretty significant deal because, I was 100% inside circle one. I was one of the lowest out of bounds rated, ratings for that event. And that's what I was talking with some of the big boys, and it's just like, they're like, man, you're doing great. How are you course managing out there? And I'm just like, guys, I've got like 6 holes out there. I've got a green light on. The other 12, it's plop, plop, fizz, fizz, par, moving on. And I'm waiting until, those green lights come up, and then it's time to perform. So, that's the magic of Winthrop. It really does have that. I always say in my clinics, throwing long drives is an incredible attribute to have. But what it does for you is it gives you more opportunities to putt. And so of course I always bring it around to how important putting is. But having those opportunities to putt, that's how you win the USDGC. Those guys are getting sometimes 16 out of 18 chances for a successful scoring opportunity.
Yeah.
Is that the year that you went bogey free? at your field?
I did have a bogey-free round. I think I celebrated. I don't know if I was bogey-free. Darn near. I don't
Not
think
for
I
the whole tournament,
bogey-free.
but certainly for like you join elite company for playing that entire course without a bogey. That's yeah.
Yeah, I think I had one practice round one time where it was bogey free until I remembered, and then I bogeyed like 16 or something, and it was just like, and that honestly, that horse, I never pulled it off, but I always tried to not know where I was at, and usually sometime by 7 or 8 or 9, you've had to stop for a little bit, and you can't help but figure it out, and you're just like, no, you weren't supposed to do that. Leave it alone, and
That makes me think of the one that got away for me out in Virginia playing Hawks Hollow for the first time. That's John Bisco's course, amazing property. And, back in the early 2000s, that was like next level championship private farmage that was just, the players package was unbelievable. Luckily there was Des and we went through the line, and part of the players package was, do you choose a Confederate bullet or a Union bullet as part of your players package? You can only take one. So of course, we took one of each, so we had them both, but those were all dug up off of Bisco's farm. But that course was unbelievable. And here I am with this record, and some jackhole comes up and goes like, bro, if you make this, you're going to have the course record. And of course, there goes that opportunity right out the door.
thanks,
That's a
pal.
psychological.
You're awesome. I'm buying you dinner tonight.
Yeah,
Where are
totally.
you going? Because that's not where I'm going.
That's going to touch on something that I wanted to talk, where we're going to talk about later, about something that I believe was Stork wrote an article for the PDGA about silence during putting competitions, and you encouraging just the opposite. But it is different when you're in, and when you're putting on a performance, that's one thing. But when you're on the course and you hear random sounds, that could be far more distracting than maybe the chaos that you help orchestrate, But anyways, let's get back to the framework here. A little bit, what else have we got here, Mace?
Oh, all right. So let's see here. You are the PDGA Tournament Charity Program 2007 Bob West Sportsmanship of the Year Award, the 2017 Volunteer of the Year, 2018 PDGA Hall of Fame with Andy Young and George Sappenfield, and member since '99. First ever event was '98. You got 26 straight years on the tour, an average of 26 professional PDGA events every year since '01. 135 wins, 132 professional wins, 606 events, 579 professional events.
That's huge.
So that's a line share, obviously. $183,341.49 in career earnings.
Mr. Consistent.
And on the Global Masters Series, you're number 15. So that's there's a whole lot of information right there. Then I'll cap it with the win percentages. MPO 414 events, 64 wins. That's 15.4%. Excuse me, 46%. In MP40, you played 131 events with 56 wins. So that's a 42.75% win percentage. You got a little catching up to do in MP50 on the percentage wise, but 34 events so far, and you've got 12 wins for a 35.29% win percentage. So you got like 8 more years to work on that. So
yeah, and
well, unless you got an MP55.
I still play, I'm almost a third, I still play open quite a bit when, again, the course suits my game. I do have to kind of manage that side of things and be realistic of, where I'm, my best odds and chances are. That's the beauty of being 50. You kind of can choose those levels. So almost all my 50-year-old tournaments are, they're either A tiers or above and that type of thing. And I think you alluded to it earlier too. I mean, it's wild, this tidal wave that's on its way to age protected divisions. We're always now very anxious to see who the who the new 40-year-old is going to be popping in. Like this year, it was like
Hell.
Kale LaVisca. Really? I thought that guy was like 22. You know?
Yeah, well, that's, and then, and there's going to be guys like that. There's going to be guys like that every year.
That's what I mean.
But
we had
you've been
Nate
that
on
guy like that.
we had Nate on a couple weeks ago, and some people were asking, was he going to come back for 40? And I think he's a little guy. I think he's a little more worried about beer right now. But those are valid questions.
And fatherhood.
Yeah, well, and the cool thing about the disc golf family, is that, and I've seen you guys, we have all experienced this so many times. So, yep, I'm one of the guys. I'm here. You come back 5 years from now, I'm still here. But so many people leave the game for all different reasons, and then they come back
because of life.
Here, a lot of us still are. I mean, it's just, you build these relationships and foundational friendships that last a lifetime, and it just so happens that the common bond is that we all love seeing flying airfoils travel through the air. And then you start putting peripheral things on there, like, Mr. B and I have, like, we can talk music and not even touch on disc golf. Mace Man and I could talk about wild places that we've been and never talk about
live shows. I mean, like, that's the thing too, is that's part of some of the stuff we do. Like we had some really in-depth hockey playoff episodes this year. Timmy Gill joined us, and there's some things that we're going to do next year that are, I mean, we're going to have a design week. We're going to have an art week from a disc golf perspective, and we'll probably have some people on that aren't art related as well. I mean, that aren't disc golf related too, just because something that's very interesting to all of us. And and try to tap into some other things too. But the bottom line is that, the TV coverage is great. Seeing live events all the time, that's awesome. But there's a lot of stories that aren't being told there, and there's a lot of stories that led to that really need to be told. And obviously we all agree with that. So.
Oh man, I tell you, I mean, I can speak for Des as well, because she's got the big world titles, but man, it just would be so cool to see some of this old footage of some of these, amazing tournaments and experiences. Like, I think it's taken for granted a little bit now. It's, it's so expected that, like, next day coverage, hell, I'm on card 3 and I'm still going to get, filmed. Wow, I have to dig deep to find some good archival footage of some of my stuff, and it's it just is what it is. But it's something that we need to look at as, this is an incredible time to be involved in disc golf.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's, especially for where the three of us have been and where we're at now overall. But I mean, just the things that we've seen change. I mean, it's just like talking to your parents that were, parents that grew up after were born during World War II and stuff like that. And the things that they've seen change in the 50s and then the 60s and then 70s and now in the 2000s. And it's, it's an interesting evolution like that too. Just, not as important, obviously.
Well, now let's take it back. We want to get to know our very special Yeti guest here. I did some digging, looked up some things about Bettendorf. You have an amazing record, certainly at the high school level, but also at the college level. You, in the Bettendorf Bulldogs, the 1989 team is considered the dream team of all teams, part of the second streak, the second of 3 streaks that are legendary, and that actually earned you induction into the Bettendorf High School, or the Bettendorf Hall of Fame, I believe, for the whole city.
Yeah, I think they call it the Hall of Honor.
The Hall of Honor, sorry, yes. And you got the keys to the city. So, but let's take it back to then. You were all conference, all metro, all state, elite Iowa selection, team captain. You won the state champs in 87 and 88. Those teams went 25-0. Black and gold never gets old. And based on that strength, you were then given a full scholarship to University of Northern Iowa, where you studied, eventually took a BA in K-12 physical education. And if anybody out there ever goes to Wikipedia and they're interested in Kurt Warner, they will see that you two played together. You were the offensive lineman, number 68, still then known as Jason Redding, who liked the outdoors and liked wildlife and liked physical sports and was also good at track. So this is the ferment. You're a semi-professional, but a very talented athlete. You've devoted a good chunk of your life to being athletic, to following the focus, the way, being rigorous, disciplined, and somehow during all of this time, during your University of Northern Iowa experience, you become aware of disc golf, and you and Des start playing just at fun and study breaks. Tell us how you found out about, like, how did it even become across your recreational radar?
Yeah, it's a super fun story, and like I always say, number 68 in your program, but number 1 in your hearts.
This guy right here.
Jason Redding. Yeah.
And then
Nice.
this guy.
Oh,
Imagine him
yeah.
coming at you.
There
Come
we
on.
go.
I don't want to be facing that guy.
Yeah,
So sorry.
that was definitely at the peak of the collegiate career there, and I think I played my max weight was right there at about 275, so not like I played defense in high school, and so every defensive lineman's ultimate, like, you got to be kidding me, is to go to offensive line, so that's what got me to Northern Iowa was it was the largest university that actually recruited me to solely play defense. All the big colleges, I went to visits to Iowa State and Illinois and Kansas State, and all the big schools were like, oh man, we're going to beef you up and we're going to put you on the offensive line. You got such fast feet. Like, this is going to be, incredible. And I'm like, offense, you got to be kidding me. So of course, as soon as I got there, and they're like, hey, if you switch over to offense, I'm pretty sure you're going to start next year. It's just like, all right, now I'm on a team, a team player. Let's go. I'm going to hit the buffet tonight, come on. And I never did pack on that big weight, but I had the speed. I ran an equivalent test of a 4.940, which at 275 is that's a speedy individual. And
That's hauling some hamburgers, man.
We were a polling, trapping, and sweep team with a lot of short screen passes, which are offensive lineman's dream. You get to, basically pretend like you're going to pass block somebody, and you're like 1,001, 1,002, like, go ahead, sack them. And then you do this little wheel around, and the next thing you know, you've got some little hapless, cornerback or safety, and you're just launching your body sideways to make space, and you're just taking people out. And it's the funnest thing legally you can do, and without, getting assault records, it's just good stuff. So to answer your question though, we had a house right there in campus town. The rugby team actually got booted out of this house, and we used to go to some of their parties. So we were like, I've got 8 friends, let's all jump in the rugby house. So there we go. We have I think we had 6 football players, maybe 2 not football players, but 8, and we took over the house. And one of the non-football player buddies came over and was like, hey, who's got a Frisbee? Who's got a Frisbee? We all have a Frisbee. It's like, I just found this game down in downtown at this little park across a river. It's called Frisbee golf. Like, let's check this out. Like, you guys got to come check this out. It's unbelievable. So, we all jumped on our bikes and rode down there, and man, we just had a hoot. We weren't even really sure of the rules. In fact, we did play with Frisbees, and they were kind of hard to, actually, we figured you had to stick them into the, target, but it was difficult. So we actually just played, if you just hit metal, we're counting it early on. And I still have this rule to get, nobody pays for pole. Pole never counts in anything. So target and above. And, there we were, a bunch of football players. And then our girlfriends as well, got them involved. And, kind of a cool little side story with, Des, of course, playing softball. two of my other roommates and their girlfriends, and they played some disc golf with us as well. We're all still married today.
Wow.
So that's Des and I are going on, 27 years here, and those
There they
guys
are.
are as well.
There they are.
Nice.
That's
Man,
from your wedding day,
those
isn't it?
kids. Look at those kids.
1995.
Yep, absolutely. So, pretty cool that something as far as Des and I goes, both athletes, and then disc golf was actually the binder that we discovered together along with our friends. And we would ride down there, as a study, being a student athlete is so time consuming and taxing. I mean, at one point we had an amazing strength and conditioning coach that was actually having us do 3-a-days. I mean, we were showing up at 5 a.m, and then again when you have a break there in the middle of the day, and then don't forget to follow up at 5 p.m. And we're gonna, that's how we were successful as a collegiate football team. We were really, disciplined and bought into the program, and so we needed some release. So there was no better way than to go down and grab a 12-pack and a big smile and throw some frisbees around at metal targets. And yeah.
Awesome.
It was so that was Tourist Park in Cedar Falls.
I was just going to
That
ask.
was installed in 1979. Eric Vandenberg, I think he'll correct this, but at one point, because he's discovered other ones, at one point it was the third oldest course left in America. And the
Wow.
story
Oh,
is
wow.
yeah, the story is that a park and recreation director out of Cedar Falls went to a park and rec show, and Steady Ed was there pushing his new invented pole hole. And I think this gentleman won a raffle for 9 holes. And he was like, a nine hole golf course? No. Golf courses are 18. So he purchased another 9,
Wow.
and we had a full 18. And then, disc golf was very strong early on in Iowa. So many founders with Bob Kramer, Tom Kramer. The list is very large there.
For sure. Lots of courses too.
The PDGA World Disc Golf Championships were in the Blackhawk Cedar Valley in 1989. And this small tourist park was a featured course, as well as a few others that were established in the area. And yeah, you'll be able to talk to Des more about, some of these stories, but I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure I personally might have made fun of Juliana Bauer at the time, Corver, and some of her friends, because we couldn't believe that people were like carrying around a bag with other discs. Like, you got to be kidding.
I think that everybody was guilty of that in the beginning. Like, they said, what's with those goofballs?
This one disc,
They're
that's
so
all you need.
serious.
But
I
yeah,
remember
her story.
We did that.
Go ahead.
We did that, and then we saw him play the short tees at Veterans one time. Like one special, and we were out there at the same time they were playing. And we were like, wait a minute, they're playing short tees? We can do that. And then next weekend we went and played the weekly.
Nice.
But the funny thing about Juliana is that she ridiculed Jason Steffen for carrying more than one. So it's like the cycle perpetuates itself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And hey, we'll give it up for, like you said, the purple and the gold victory for you and I. Northern Iowa, and I challenge anybody to find a university that is more winning in disc golf than Northern Iowa. I mean, it produced Jason Steffen, Bob Kramer, Tom Kramer, Juliana, Des, Jay. There's others, so it's pretty cool.
You've got a couple of research tracks on the go there, because that's a good one, my friend. Now, one thing I just wanted that struck me in the research, I watched your press conference just ahead of the 2022 Texas State Championships. And in it, you had mentioned that when you were about 8 years old, you had thought you had invented the game of disc golf. What's that all about?
Yeah, I was blessed to have an actual park. Edgewood Park was back behind the yard. And, in that little neighborhood, it just was a city park. Not huge, and I think it had tennis courts, a baseball field, some sand, and a few monkey bar type of things. but we had a great park system, recreation system. So they would have summer programming, all the kids would come out from the neighborhood and, we'd play pickup games of you name it. Capture the flag was always a huge one. But when that was all said and done, like, well, kids were still, what do you want to do now? And I always, man, I've been a game inventor. It's the physical educator in me. It's the big kid in me and everything. So I was always the kid in the neighborhood that was always inventing these cool new games and things like that. And, we'd go through these phases like, flag football forever, no matter what. Then the tennis court was interesting and we'd create, either tennis or different types of games with that. But as soon as we start playing catch with the Frisbee, the next thing you know, it's like, wait a second, we can do something different than just playing catch. Let's go to that tree down there and let's call it a par 4. And next thing you know, there we all are. We did that for a couple weeks and then moved on and kind of forgot all about it. And but at some point, I guess I had that little flash that I could have been a junior champion somewhere in there.
Oh man, I hear you. I mean, the World Championships came to the island in '87, and I was 16. I'd be shanking for that much longer. You never know. But okay, so you're this turns into your first disc, your first real golf disc, your earlier. I'm going to turn that over to Mace. But in the process, you go from, I think you finished in '93 at UNI, and that was the big Kurt Warner year.
Yeah. Yep.
Then you move off, you get married in '95, and you're teaching both in Iowa and in Texas. Did I get that right at that time?
Well, no, yes and no. We actually, so I moved back to the Quad Cities after Desk graduated a year later than me. I had a year of student teaching in there as well. But yeah, we moved to the Quad Cities. I started teaching. I ended up at an alternative high school, and we really kind of, disc golf was gone. We started, one of the things I learned in college that was, still true today was, be in control of yourself and your own, pathway. And so, okay, well, that means in the summertime here, when I'm not teaching, that means I got to start a business. And so we started a J&D concessions. We called it the hydration station, even in some places, but we sold Italian ices and different types of drinks and things at art fairs, music festivals, even some crazy county and fairs and all kinds of cool little venues and things. But that is kind of where we rediscovered disc golf. So I taught for 5 years in Davenport. And during that time where we had this, the J&D concessions, one of the art fairs had a disc golf course. And we were like, oh my gosh, remember that game in college? Like, that was so cool. Like, we should get some actual, some discs and pick it back up. And so we were in Iowa City. We went to the local kite shop, bought a driver, a golf disc. And the guy was like, hey, there's actually a tournament, down the river from you guys in Fort Madison. And I think that was that 1998 tournament that you referenced there. Cool weather. No, that was something else. Summer Sweat, I think it was called. But, Des won the women and I got third in the men. They gave us a few more discs. And the next thing you know, we're like, wow, that was so much fun. Like, what else is going on? And, then we had then started playing. Like, there was only one course in the Quad Cities. It was over in Rock Island. It was at Longview Park. It was a super steep hill. I mean, incredible steep. And it's called Mount Mother, actually. And the first hole was straight down and the second hole was straight up. So if you weren't out of breath and tired by then, you could move on to the other. I think there was only 12 holes at the time. And so we played that a little bit and, started kind of like, playing in Iowa City. Peoria had a bunch of courses. We started getting so into it that at the end of the day, we would actually travel 50 minutes in either direction and play golf in Iowa City or Peoria. And that's where the competitive juices really got flowing. And then 99, we were kind of like, what are the big tournaments around? And that was Madison, Wisconsin, the Mad City Open. And that's where we actually were like, oh, the PDGA, like what? There's a newsletter for this thing, and that's where we got our membership, and man, had so much fun there. That's where the Yeti nickname was picked up, and just man, made lifelong friends in Wisconsin. We used to go up there to bike and canoe and camp, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, we're going up there down there every weekend to play disc golf now. So we became regulars on the Wisconsin tour scene. Des hauled out way more state, championship black discs than Wisconsin wants to leak out to Iowa. I tell you that.
That's awesome. We had Barry Schultz on talking about that, and that's a precious thing to be, a precious resource to be defended.
It's a common thread.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's right.
I played a bunch of those Wisconsin's event. I never got any black discs, but I definitely played a bunch of them as well. It was good times. So, all right. So, first, speaking of first thing, do you remember your first disc? I think you said you went to the kite shop. What was your first disc there?
Yeah, what was that?
Yeah, so my first golf disc ever was, and I picked it out at Shields Sporting Goods, actually. So this wasn't at the kite shop. I picked it out because it just looked like really cool stamp, and scorpions are cool, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my first golf disc was a 200-gram scorpion, which is an overstable dinner plate.
Yeah, I got some scorpions.
DX plastic.
You'll find out what her first disc was, and you'll find out why some of our learning curves were dramatically different. But I wrestled this big meat hook.
Those were great, man. Once you got them to fly straight, and it didn't take much, and they were huge, and they would roll forever if you could keep them on edge.
Yeah,
and then they'd flip.
The Scorpion was my first disc, and the disc that I had bought at the kite shop was a disc that had just been released. The guy was so excited about it, and of course, I didn't learn my lesson with the Scorpion of lighter, understable arm speed learning curve. So I bought the XL. This is going to be the fastest distance driver ever made, according to the kite shop guy. So I played the entire tournament with an XL.
That's awesome.
So who were your early heroes as you were beginning to play more regularly and, started picking it up and started showing up more? I think who were the people that you looked up to?
Great question, Mace. And, this is where, as founding members of the Quad City Disc Golf Club, we were self-taught. Des and I as athletes, we just kind of, tried to figure it out. That's why even some of the form, you can probably see some of the like, your form is different anyway. You developed this yourself.
Yeah, like I remember your run up
for sure. But we've got
everybody, and that's interesting too, because every area has a different and I obviously has to be because it was someone they watched, but different shuffle to it, or just a different hitch in their giddy up. And Jennifer Allen's a good example of that. She moves across the tee pad way different than anybody, and she throws further than most too. So, it's just interesting to see the different hitches.
Yeah. So being self-taught, that was a pretty wild way to kind of, progress at the beginning stages. But when we went to this tournament in Madison, they had a skins match, and all of a sudden, like, okay, I saw some good pros in Iowa, at some of the smaller tournaments that we played, and I remember some of these guys. I remember seeing my first ace during the ace throw off at the end of the event. That was pretty amazing. But the skins match, this is where like these guys came in from other places. And so I really got to love and respect Jeff Harper's game. This guy had just impeccable form, like unbelievably smooth.
Super smooth.
He would definitely be an early, hero. And then somebody that I was attracted to personality wise was coming out of Michigan. Who is the Sugar Shack guy?
Oh, nice.
Man, this cat, look at this guy. He's got ripped off, cut off shirt. He throws it a country mile. He kind of, hillbilly Jim a little bit. And man, just a
Watch
fun
it.
loving soul. Just, you can tell he's having a blast out there. And then the other two guys that were in there were Alex, the rifleman.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to say Alex. I
And-
was about to say it myself. And he
He
probably
was-
rode his bike.
and Rod the Ripper Fritz out of
so
Sterling,
he didn't-
Illinois.
Alex probably rode with Rod. I was going to say, otherwise, Alex probably rode his bike.
For sure. So, the opening sequence at
Oh, we've
We're
lost
losing
you.
your audio. We lost your audio.
Can't hear you.
Uh-oh, we might be losing them altogether.
He's looking a little frozen there.
That's crazy. Talks
Oh.
about Alex Bingman, man.
Come
That
on
dude.
there.
I can hear you,
I can hear you.
but we don't
But
see
your computer's
motion.
freezing up.
Hill Country Internet.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
we've got some voice. All
Doing
right,
it.
well, we've just got you frozen there, but if we got your voice, we can continue on.
Okay.
So we're just gonna jump into some rapid fire favorites, okay? Just a quick little,
Oh,
I'll
there
let
you go.
Quick little.
Hey,
quick
so
little
wait,
hits.
finish
Yeah.
the story. Go ahead and
Oh, right.
finish the story about the skins match, because I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you're bringing back some legends. Just
So-
Alex Bingman alone. I mean, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So he starts match by throwing in probably 180.
yeah, that Hill Country Internet.
I hope Des isn't trying to download the latest Dexter.
200-foot highs around a tree, and boom.
Oh, we're missing.
Oh, there you go.
so much.
It's rolling now. Maybe.
Hill Country Internet, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we got was somebody threw it in from 100 feet.
Yeah, Alex Beeman threw it in from almost 200 feet. And yeah, that was super exciting. And then the second hole, it ends up, his roller goes long, deep into the woods. And so everybody else has a, pretty long chance to get it in. But then Alex goes into the woods, he disappears. This disc comes out of the woods and makes it again, another over 100-footer. I mean, so
I think I was at this event. I'm pretty sure of it. I hit a bunch of those Mad City Opens, and I think this was my first one. I've never seen Jay so astounded.
Oh, I'm looking for Brian Mace right now.
Huh?
I'm looking to see if you're that you would have been playing pro by then, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain, but I think I was at that event. If I wasn't, I was definitely at the 2000 version, and probably 5 or 6 more after that.
So that is the Mad City Open he's talking about. Top 4 was Al Shack, Barry Schultz, Paul Nitsch, and Jeff Harper.
Was that 99? So he might be talking about 2000 then.
99.
Because if it was because at 2000, I'm pretty sure I was there for sure, because I remember Alex throwing those shots in, man. And throwing, like, making the one out of the woods, especially, I remember that.
Well, he's playing pro by that time.
Well, he might not have made the final. Hey, are you there now? Yeah, there you go. I see you moving. Man, you must have AT&T too. You heard some of that. He's smiling.
Yeah, Mace, you were there, 33rd place, 33 out of 43.
Yeah, there you go.
But Bingman wasn't there.
Maybe it was a year after that. I don't know. I remember, but maybe it was the year before that even. Maybe it was 98, and I wasn't there for that. But I've heard about this. I've heard stories about this too.
Great story. Oh, I see some. Okay, there's some motion in the ocean. But now, no, we can't hear you. You can't hear us.
I can read your lips. 99, 99.
I feel like it's Zoom. I'm not sure what's going on.
Now
That's
everything's
better
pretty
now.
stable. Definitely.
Well, we'll call it a wildfire in the county, so you never know.
Maybe that story just didn't need to be further told. Maybe that's what the sign is.
Man, I remember one time at the ice bowl at the orchard at Dretska, and Alex Bingman, they cut him off. The guy felt that he wasn't safe. He was like, I've served you way too much alcohol. And he's like, you can't cut me off. I stopped driving in 1999 just so you couldn't cut me off. And blah, 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 blah. And he used to ride from like Libertyville, Illinois, out to Sterling to play Mississippi Open on a bicycle, dude.
Yeah.
And I've heard this
Yeah.
story from multiple people, not just from him.
I remember meeting him, and I remember him. See, the first thing I saw was his bicycle. I'm like,
And he
wow.
was, I mean, he was a good framer. Dude could probably haul, 3 packages of shingles up a roof, up a ladder if he had to. I mean, he was strong, iron fist of a hand.
So let's just jump now right into the rapid fires. Favorite disc? Oh, geez. Now he's frozen up. Oh, there he goes. He's moving around.
Oh, he's getting
AVR, of course.
Of course.
perfect.
Perfect.
All right. What's your favorite course? Man, we're getting hosed by the technology.
Maybe Jay, maybe try closing out and coming back onto the, you're just closing Zoom down.
Yeah, maybe do a reboot. Then I'll go fill my water jug real quick. You got this for a second?
I got this.
I'm gonna go grab some water.
Oh, I guess we're taking a little pause for the cause, technology driven here. But as you can see, look at how giddy he is, just holding the stack of Yeti AVRs. Look, the proud papa that he is. That was a good story, especially about his first skins match. I hope we'll be able to check that out again. I don't know, Jay, if you can hear me, but it would be great if you could just maybe. Look at how giddy. Oh. Something was happening.
Hey, there you are. I can hear you now.
Okay, well, I'll continue on. Your favorite course to play?
Oh man. Oh, hold on though. We are having a bunch of stuff going on, that's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm trying to close windows even in the
It's on these.
it's been,
Do you see where your screen is frozen?
yeah, I do.
Okay, because that's a great pose right there.
It is a pretty
It's gotten you in a couple of poses, man. There was one where you were just like sort of hilariously astounded. And,
Yeah.
But maybe we can edit this back out and we'll send you the cuts. Man, what's up with this? Technology.
Technology. Apologies, everyone out there.
Well, we're setting heat records here in Texas.
coming in and out. I'm not sure. I'm trying to
We caught part of it. We're definitely catching some of it. I was just going to do a little weather report. It's disgustingly hot in Texas.
Oh, it's one of the most perfect days to be alive here in Toronto.
It's 96. Man, I tell you what, I went to Tacoma and back, as most of you know, and I left Tacoma on Monday, and we stopped in Spokane Monday evening. And man, Spokane's a pretty cool town.
Hmm.
It's a couple 100,000. They have a huge basketball tournament there. Apparently, it's the biggest 3-on-3 tournament in the world. And Gonzaga, the Bulldogs, are from there.
Is that where
And
Gonzaga is?
you see, and you know what? I said the same thing, man. Actually, Washington State is also there, the Cougars, and I believe it's Washington State.
Is
But
Spokane the capital?
I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know the answer to that. But it's that Eastern Washington and Eastern Oregon are fantastic, man. I mean,
Hmm.
I drove in on 84 from Boise and into Oregon, and it was mountains, really nice rolling mountains, and then rolling plain, like really big rolling plains with a lot of ag, a lot of grain, a lot of wheat out that way.
Hmm.
And then I got into the Columbia River Gorge, and I guess I slept on that day in school when they talked about that, because holy cow, man, that's like, I was like, I didn't know there was that big a river out here. It was something else, man. And then they had a bunch of Christmas tree farms. When I cut over to Mile and McIver, it took me off of that freeway, but not into Portland. So it cut me down into kind of the countryside, and I went around and hit the park. And there were some orchards where they were growing trees they were selling too, just regular, trees that you would plant in the yard. Go get a little sapling and in a ball, how they do that. And it was beautiful. It was really amazing. I heard there's a bunch of rose gardens around there too, but I didn't see that.
Hmm.
But man, lots of big trees, but still lots of views of the horizon, which was kind of interesting. With so many big trees. I wonder if I need to send him that link again. I don't. All right, folks, here we go. Round 2. Jay Redding rolling with the punches. Hopefully.
Well, there's the first World's Mixed Doubles Championship. And that, I believe, is from 2002. He'd only been playing pro for 3 years by that point. They both had. Talk about career path trajectories. Now, doesn't he kind of have like a little bit of a Jack Black look there?
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I love about this guy. And one thing I think he loves about Texas is this action. Skeet ball with an actual ball from a truck and actual rifles.
Interesting.
What else we got here? This, when he got the Hall of Honor, he actually got the key to the city of Bettendorf. Black and
Nice.
gold. Jason Redding, 89, Hall of Fame disc golfer too. Look at that. That's double the honor there. There's his Texas Hall of Fame. Got in with Patty Justice and Vinnie Miller.
Nice.
Keep your eye on that. The Yeti Space Force patch. Got to get me one of those. That looks sweet. Now we're going to be asking Jay about this, but this is a great story. Have you heard about this?
No.
So he's practicing. It's before a round. He's practicing, and this young Dallas pro is throwing back to the practice area. Yells, what did he yell? Look out instead of 4. Look out. And what happens? This disc hits Jay, and it's still spinning so fast that it burns itself onto his shirt. Look at right
Wow.
down here. You can see this is the mark that it left on his body inside of his shirt. There it is. It's
Wow.
stuck to his shirt. So when he got it peeled off, there was stuff, parts of his shirt burned to the disc.
Wow, I've never seen anything. I've seen people try to burn discs back in the day to fix, cuts and things like that.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that.
We also, I mean, just have a couple of pictures of him and Dez living it up.
That's
He likes-
that's Jay and Des right there for sure. Like 100%.
The disc golf cruise, we're gonna have to ask him about that. What else have we got here? And then this is gonna eventually come up. He's really, maybe this was where he had that announcing for.
Oh
the
yeah,
10.
it could be.
So hopefully we can get Jay back and we can continue on. Because it was going swimmingly up until then.
Yeah.
And we're an hour in and we're,
Well, yeah, I guess we
Wow.
started about, yeah, we're about an hour in.
we got a lot. Too much to go through. But I mean, he's never one at a loss for words either. So getting the words in edgewise around here is always a tough proposition.
For sure.
I mean, if last time with Nolan, it was tough to get him to answer with more than one word, it's going to be tough to get the words contained at times here.
Well, I'll just run down all the people that have stopped by tonight since we've got a nice little lull. We started with Eric Teddy, David Chapman, Corey Nerith or Nerthlin. Sorry about butchering your name, dude. Tim Oates, Dennis Byrne, Dale Himmeline, Sean Reed, Brad Bishop, Aaron Bernardez, Jeff Burke, Chris Pepperling, Terry Calhoun, Thomas Kansas White, Keith Osborne, Kim Birdie, Tony McGibbon, Eric Dodson, Keith Machin, JB Rappold, Joe Torres, Kent Ellis, Ted Barber, Joe Apolucio, William Nelson, John Haggerton, Travis Flett, Carl Visser, Denny Ortega,
Officer.
Jeremy Lockwood, Chad Lefevre, Steve Gans, who just got into the if I'm not mistaken, just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. I could be wrong about that. Sometimes I get names mixed up. Nolan stopped by. Nelda Grider also stopped by. Charlotte Robeson, Chris Ware, Ronald Aldridge, and Matt Fitzwater. So that was a pretty good rundown. And they aren't all here now, but some of them are. So, thanks for stopping by, y'all.
Thanks for stopping by. Not sure what we can do right now with all of this, but hopefully Texas Hill Country Internet. But I hear it's a
Yeah,
lovely
well,
place.
that's one thing. I went to Brandon's over the 4th of July and I downloaded I don't remember whose interview we did right before the 4th. And it was lickety split uploading. It happened really quick, a whole lot quicker than it's been happening at my house with the edit and the upload. And Brandon goes, "Oh yeah, I got better internet." And I don't know that I can get better internet here, unfortunately, but it went quicker at the hotel with Nolan than it does here.
Wow. Okay, so Wimberley is almost halfway between San Antonio and Austin. A little closer to Austin than San Antonio.
And it's kind of out southwest, if I'm not mistaken. That's the way I always feel like I'm going, but I don't know for sure.
Southwest from Austin, yeah.
I believe, yeah. I haven't
Southwest
gone
by
that way in a long time
Southwest.
though.
San Marcos is not too far away. New Braunfels. That's down there. I think Houston's the furthest south I've ever, well, I guess Port Arthur. It's about the same south. It's about the furthest south in Texas I've ever been. But you go to, where do you go? Corpus Christi or Galveston?
Port Aransas, and it's south of Corpus Christi. If you're gonna go to the beach here, or you either gotta go there or go further south and go to Padre, from what I hear, but I've never gone to Padre. But I have gone to
Oh,
Port
there's Port
Aransas,
Aransas. Okay.
and it's way nicer than Galveston. The water
that's
in
pretty-
Galveston's like yoo-hoo.
That's pretty, yuck. That's
Yeah.
pretty far down there in Texas, dude.
It is. Well, the thing that sucks, really, honestly, is if you're gonna go that far, if you're gonna go, especially if you're gonna go to Padre, you just as well go like 4 more hours and just go dead east and go to hit it in South Carolina. Because you'll go there and you're like that, and there ain't nothing that sucks about this. Just saying.
Mhm.
But so if you go to Port Aransas, it's not the clear water. The water's clear, but the beach is blonde, so that doesn't look like it's real. It's not like muddy, like, man, Galveston. If you look at it, it's kind of like when you look at you ever notice when you look at glacier photos, if you look at really good glacier photos, they look blue. The glaciers look blue. If you just look at average glacier photos, they just look white. And you can look at beach photos from Galveston, and if you look at them really hard, you could see that water looks like yoo-hoo.
Boy, that strip of sand that forms that outer beach break, that stretches from like
The long way.
basically from Galveston all the way down to Mexico.
There's a couple breaks in it for sure,
Yeah.
but it goes from I think it goes from Port A all the way to Galveston to Padre Island. I think that island is like North and South Padre Island, basically, from what I understand, or from what I read, I think, on the map.
Yeah, and south tip of South Padre. I don't think you can drive that whole, can you?
You can drive a lot of it, but I don't think it's on road. Like you can definitely drive on Port A and park right on the beach. I did it with Billy Moody.
All right. Well, what are we gonna do?
I don't know. He sent a message and said he was trying to log back in.
Okay.
So let's give it a minute and see what happens.
Okay.
Man, drove across most of Montana, and man, it's a long way across Montana, dude.
You know, something that Des brought up when we asked him about his early heroes, huh? Des J. Ah, there he is.
Hi, dudes.
Hey,
Nice, that
long
sounds
time no
great.
see.
I have no idea what happened there, but it was
seems like
it was a
everything's
deep
perfect
one.
now.
It was a deep one.
Hopefully we got the gremlins out.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So if we've got you stable here, let's go back to that. So you're telling the story of, just to start again with the Final Nine story.
Yeah, so the final 9 at the 99 Mad City Open, first hole saw Alex, the rifleman Bingman, they threw off of a different tee pad, maybe from like the shelter or something like that. But his shot was, maybe not as long as the others, but he ends up throwing this hyzer around the cedars and sinks this 200-foot shot for the first skin. It's just like, yeah, crowd goes nuts. Then we get over to hole 2 and it's on Elver's hillside. And I think a couple people I think Harper might've thrown a roller, but it was a little short. A couple others were short. Bingman's kept on rolling. It just kept rolling along this hillside, and it ends up going long and into the woods. And so the other guys throw first, and they give, valiant efforts, but then Alex disappears into the woods over there, and we're all kind of waiting in anticipation. And this disc comes flying out of the woods and right into the chains. And, now my jaw is just on the ground. I mean, I've never witnessed anything like this before in Frisbee sports. And it was just like, this is unbelievable. And, watching these guys play their game, I think that was definitely, all I could talk about for the next week, teaching the kids. And, then going back to the schools where I was at, I taught social studies, which I wasn't qualified to teach, but I, loved history. And one of the, I taught some high school. And, these kids, unfortunately, a lot of bright students and smart with it kids, but, horrible family backgrounds, things like that. They all get labeled with all these horrible, behavior disorder, learning disorder. And some of them did have true disabilities, but most of these kids were just, some gangbangers and some other kids that they just wanted to separate from the regular classroom. And so I had some great projects and some kids, a lot of them ended up falling through the cracks with some, like, I just thought I broke through and, made connections and had this kid on track. And the next thing you know, he gets busted with a felony with a sawed-off shotgun. And it's just like, I just, lost that kid, but I also taught phys ed. And at the end of the day, we actually had access to a bus. And we would go over to the sister school at Annie Whitmire. And the former, staff, all they would do was, if it was nice out, they'd play kickball. And if it was bad weather, they'd go in the gym and play pickup basketball. And all it was breaking up fights, and these kids are picking on each other. And it was just, I couldn't take it. And so I tried to find some other things that we could do that maybe, like disc golf. And I got these kids in their little peer groups. And, the next thing you know, I've got the Marilyn and Manson kids all together. I've got the gangsters all together. I've got the learning disability kids all together. And they're socializing amongst themselves, and they're exercising, and they don't even realize it. And the school psychologist a couple months later, calls us all in, and he's in this team meeting. He's just like, I don't know what's going on in physical education, but we are seeing serious behavioral change. In order to get on the bus at the end of the day, these kids have to be on a gold level behavior. And he goes, I've never seen more kids on gold level ever in the history of the school. It was because they all wanted to go play disc golf.
Wow.
That was where, like, whoa, not only am I getting my kicks as a athlete and, my lifelong goal of being a professional athlete and all these things that maybe are in the future for me. But the educational side of me was just like, man, I just broke through. This
that's
is something
badass.
else. I wrote a grant, got a couple bass targets, and kind of the rest is history on that side. And, a lot of that led into us, immediately knowing, like, yeah, disc golf in education is something, that we need to keep in the back of our mind if we ever, that opportunity ever rises. And, obviously from 99, it went real quick. Des was named Female Pro Rookie of the Year, along with Barrett White in 2001, and turned around and won the, world championship in 2002. We were so new to this sport. We drove down we played in worlds in 2000. So we, definitely got, and that was a massive all encompassing worlds in Michigan, their disc golf hotbed. So this is where I met Steady Ed Hedrick. I'm just like, whoa, like this is the, grandfather of the sport, and saw again Jeff Harper's playing, and now I'm getting introduced to guys like Mike Randolph and all these other amazing players. The amazing Dr. Rick, in fact, here's a guy that it was I want to say he was in his 40s and he made the final 9. Am I right, Mace? Do you remember that?
It's entirely possible. If it didn't happen then, it happened at other events. He certainly
made the final 9. I just don't know how old he was. I think he was
then he was probably in his 40s if he made the final 9 at that. Or at that point, yeah. Because he's
100%.
Didn't he play 70 MP70 this weekend or last week?
Yeah.
I'm
So,
pretty sure he played MP70 with Greenwell.
whoa.
There's
So he,
another like that one kind of caught me by surprise too. That Greenwell's going to be 70 if he's not already now too. You know, and talk with him a little bit. We're gonna have him on in October, quite possibly live at USDGC if he makes it down there.
nice. Yeah, I got to play skill shot challenge with him, and along with Chuck Kennedy, Des and I, and our edge team helped create that as a progress measurement system for schools, for kind of like, all right, well, how do we grade kids maybe on disc golf improvement? And then of course, I also discovered like this could be a killer field event type of a situation. So I kind of shortened it down and made it to a 6-station, rotatable type of thing. And then, the PDGA picked it up at all the world championships. And it's one of the more popular field events. And, somebody like Dave Greenwell, who's got every single tool in the,
And every single
chest,
shot too. I mean,
everything. And so, he and Dave Feldberg, for the early years, they were always battling each other in the open side of the skill shot challenge, because it measures 21 identifiable skills for being a proficient disc golfer. Everything from forehand rollers to on a kneel obstructed shots, upside down, 25 footers all the way up to 250 feet. And so it's a pretty cool little game. And so, man, I relish, to be able to play with him. And it's funny, I had a buddy from Texas that was kind of following around and like, man, I wish I would have signed up for this, man. And, he didn't know who Dave was. So I introduced him and I was like, hey, just watch some of this action. And then of course he proceeds to go down on a knee and throw in a 150 footer.
pretty good. You might have heard of him.
Pretty good. So yeah, good stuff there.
So
All
let's
right, so let's roll that favorite deal, man.
yeah. He was just
So
in
we
the
already
middle
went
of
to
making
the
a rush.
we already found out about the AVR. What was your favorite course?
Ooh, such a terrible
That's a really
question.
difficult one.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like wow.
Maybe we should start saying what's your 5 favorite courses, because that's not easy
Okay.
either.
No, that's not easy either. But I tell you what, I will go back into kind of an archival because it is so wonderful to take a look at. One of the things that Des and I, maybe we went right back to that kite shop. I remember being like, wait a second, I'm pretty sure I saw some kind of a booklet that showed where some of these other disc golf courses are.
No way. You bought a directory right after you bought your first disc?
Oh yeah, like it was like
Oh,
like
cow.
this thin. And he of course kind of charted and stuff, like started to see where these courses were. And so early on, kind of started keeping track of that type of stuff. So courses that still fit the bill of like, long ago would have been top 5 that still kind of are there. Pickard Park in Iowa, it's, all these courses have changed, but the property is still the same. Unbelievable place. Idlewild in Kentucky. And, we were saying things
I
about
still
these
haven't
courses
played that one yet.
long before Disc Golf Pro Tour days. One of the things I loved about Idlewild was that Fred Salas started a adopt the hole program. So what a better way to maintain a huge wild championship course than have people compete against each other for pride, and that my hole looks in better shape than your hole. And look at the fresh petunias I just put on my hole. What are you going to do this year? And so the competition is real. So every time you go to that place, it's like fresh and upkept. Warwick in New York, that animal course was
Oh yeah, that's
always,
definitely a good one.
always a
I played
favorite.
that one before it was 2 targets, like a
Oh,
long,
right
long
on.
time ago. So, but that's still, I mean, like, man, you know what? I used to talk so much shit about New Jersey, and we used to, because going back to the stagehand days, we do the WWF, and the guys that built the ring were also referees. And they were from New Jersey, and they would always talk about God's country. And I'm like, later, John Bon Jovi, it's the garbage state, and because I'm thinking Newark, I mean, pretty much that was my experience, my early experience with New Jersey, and that fits with the garbage state. But man, you get out there by Warwick, and I got a room out there after I played that course. I've got this little neighborhood motel. And I woke up and I was just like, oh my God, could I have ever been more wrong? I mean, So beautiful over there.
Yeah, Des and I we were huge backpackers before we were disc golfers. When we first started going out together, it was, let's go get lost in Utah, and we spent our honeymoon in Yellowstone and Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we've hiked the entire Black Hills for 2 weeks. I'm rolling in to see the.
I was just there
Here's a
2
funny
weeks
story.
ago, or 2 days ago.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful place. I mean, it's like stepping back into the early 70s, late 60s.
Oh yeah.
And so
Progress on Crazy Horse is super impressive right now.
when you're backpacking for a couple weeks, you plan ahead, and we send a box of food to be picked up after the first week. And so we dip down out of this valley into this little bitty maybe post office box with a coffee shop, and that's all it was. It was just ranchers, and they're all in there having their morning coffee, and they've got a little white chalkboard, and they're making bets because a lot of backpackers do this, and they make bets on whether the people will be there early to pick their package up or late. I mean, it's kind of their exciting thing. So when we come rolling in all stinky and like Grizzly Adams out of here, they're the old guys are like, oh, you got it, Jimmy, they're here a day early, and but then there's a buzz in the air, and they're all like, hey, you guys are backpacking, and which way are you going? Like, oh, bro, Ted over here just had a cattle go down. There's a cougar out there. There's a mountain lion. He's fresh right here in this valley, and he's looking for hikers. And we're all just like, whatever, dudes. Thanks. We'll take our peanut butter and granola bars and we're out of here. And sure enough, as soon as we come out of this little ridge, we see fresh cat tracks, and we're just like, no way. And who knows? We never saw it, but mountain lions are like, they saw us way before we even kind of thought about
sure.
them. But
Well,
that was kind
because
of
you're both
circle.
tall. Cougars don't like tall prey, so
That's right.
just
like Yetis.
they were like, oh wait, she's just as tall as he is. We're out of here.
good thing. But that was a long way to get to, being such an outdoors and naturalist, that the first black bear I ever saw was in New Jersey.
Wow.
And so I love telling that story because people are like, what was it, walking down, Hoboken or Trenton?
Yeah, for sure.
But Garden State, I get it. And, best pizza in the United States, I'll say it. It's true. And I'm a Chicago deep dish guy.
Wow.
Too, so,
Okay. I think you
man,
gotta tip your
Jersey-
hat to that connection.
Jersey
there.
pizza can't be beat. But let's see, back to courses. Always have respect for Winthrop as a course. Probably if I had to push one to the top, just because of when I'm a course designer, I'm a very aesthetic designer. I want it to look cool and feel good while you're playing it. And there's nowhere else in the world that can beat Paradise, New Zealand. They play the national championships there for a number of years. This is a world heritage site. And it's the only reason why that they're able to have a disc golf event there is through multiple generations of this small little lodge that's got like 6 rooms, and the families pass down the rights to spend a week at this cottage, at this little
Wow.
place. Yep. And so somebody was a disc golfer, and they kind of all the targets are temporary. Everything's very, capiche on the naturalistic side of everything, pack in, pack out, the entire tournament. And, it's kind of how the Kiwis live anyway. But this place is just nuts. I mean, there's a glacier on this side. There's a wild river over here. There's a deep, thick, red wooded forest. There's a glowworm cave. There's they filmed like 5 to 6 scenes of the Lord of the Rings right there. I mean, Paradise, New Zealand, that course, it was so hard to concentrate on putting, because, everything was just up and around. But I don't know, there's a short little hit list.
That's a great hit list for
That's
sure.
a pretty good one.
This might be an easier question. What's the favorite course that you've designed?
Ooh, gosh, man. I mean, so many of them have like these little good stories to them and stuff. So, man, favorite. Man, I guess one of the ones I have to go back to. This course just keeps giving to me. I designed a course for Abilene Christian University. That was just such an amazing project because we met one of the teachers at a physical education conference, and Deanna Shake, and she didn't know anything about disc golf, but she came to our presentation and she was just like, oh my gosh, you guys could, probably sell, tire pumps, at a no air tire, festival. But you guys were dynamic. You sold the sport. I want to know more about it, and I think I want to bring this to my school. And so that led, just this chain of events of us granting her a package to teach a class, which she sold out, which then got the administration going like, geez, you've got a wait list for this class I've never even heard of, to like, yeah, we should put a campus course on the grounds. And then, one thing leads to another. The next thing you know, we've got somebody that knows somebody that's going to donate a $12,000 rock out of Palo Duro Canyon to, etch the ACU Wildcat on. The construction guy comes in and donates all of his time, including, blasting rocks to put targets into the, rocks and things. And, it's just like amazing. And that led to them having a disc golf team, which then they started getting involved with our Texas Collegiate Championship, which then, and then here we are, that was, oh man, that was probably 2008, if I had to throw something on there. And now here, even in 2023, full circle again, I'm sponsored by Big Country Beef Jerky, which is a new disc golfer that played collegiate football in Iowa, transferred to ACU,
Wow.
quarterback there, learned disc golf on that course, decided that disc golf was the shizzle. As soon as he got out of, collegiate, he started like, what do I do to, get involved with disc golf? Started making beef jerky. Of course, we meet each other and like, what, you designed this and you played football and blah, 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 blah. And it just keeps giving.
Wow.
And it's a fun course.
That's a great story.
So who's your favorite course designer?
Man, favorite course designer. Oh, that's hilarious. So I'll just show a quick picture because Des just brought this, and here again, these people are amazing. So Deanna put together this cool book of me designing this disc golf course, the Wildcat disc golf course. It just is so, so cool. Here's Deanna throwing the very first tee off of the shot. Hilarious. The ACU president at the time that wrote the check, Dr. Money. That's really his name. But, Abilene is a little Texas tumbleweed town with a couple universities, and everybody, all of a sudden, you can see signs all over town. Welcome disc golf, come eat my barbecue. I mean, it was really endless. So much fun. There's the opening ceremony for the red coats came out. I mean, it was really a shindig.
Nice.
And Des and I gave clinics to the entire community, and then to the students. We gave out discs and everything. So hilarious. Thanks, Des. That was a good
Thank
time.
you, guys.
Right on.
Wait a second, didn't you ask the follow-up question?
Course designer. Who's your favorite course designer?
Oh man, I mean, there's really so many good ones. I've played a ton of house courses, and I really do enjoy all the different elements that he puts into it. I think different designers have different, I think I would be considered an aesthetic designer. I can take, or at least people have told me I've taken a lot of like campuses that have nothing. And like, how do you make this course like fun? That you made this course seem fun. In fact, I just got done designing a course here in town. We have a work day tomorrow to put the tee pads in, and the targets come in next week. But I ran into somebody that came in from a neighboring town, and he just played the stakes, and he didn't know who I was or anything like that. But I told him like, hey, we're having a work day tomorrow. Do you got tools? And he's actually going to show up. But he was like, this course is so like, it's just intuitive. Like, you chose places like there's shade in the trees, here in Texas. Like there's but yet it's still challenging. So I've taken a little bit from a lot of different designers. I think Harold Duvall is he's a very psychological designer. So,
Very.
he's there to make you sweat. I like that aspect as an athlete, yeah, so I mean, there's so many good designers out there, and I think we're getting more and more. Avery's doing great things. Eric McCabe's doing some great things.
Mm.
So, hats off to everybody that's, giving that a shot, because everyone thinks they can be a course designer because you played disc golf, but there's
Oh, don't forget, because you
so
have like 20 years worth of discs in your closet too. I mean, those are qualifiers, right?
yeah, so much more to it. That's for sure. Especially when you consider campus courses, safety, safety, safety are 1, 2, and 3, and then Harold gave something I still use today with designing campus courses. And that's like, think about the worst thing that can happen off this tee. Then think about something that potentially could be worse than that. And that's probably the one that will happen sometime during this course's history. So
Right.
try to avoid that scenario. But
That's pretty smart.
yeah.
Because a lot of people think, oh, well, this is not the obvious shot. This is where everybody's going to throw. They haven't clearly seen me throw. Clearly. So you played a lot of tournaments in a lot of, not that, I mean, 26 years of touring is pretty big. By the way, it's a good segue. You just took a slug of something there. Tell us what you're sipping on today.
Oh, hey, well, it's Friday. I mean, in the internet world, it could be whatever day it is, but it's Friday, so I appreciate it. I've worked hard today. I'm having some libations. And this is a fun beer, actually. Look at this. This is actually the Chase the Ace Des Redding Mexican Lager.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
cool.
I tell you what, guys, I mean, hey, I'll kick my coverage, whatever you want to say, man. I am blessed to, have such an amazing wife, and I've got my own Yeti Pro Aviar. I've got my own, hot sauce, but she's got a bobblehead and she beat me to a beer, which,
Well,
man,
in a fitting world, you would have a burrito named after you, I believe.
ooh. I
So
love
That
it.
could happen by Sunday too, by the way.
Of all the many tournaments you've played, and you've played so many, what do you consider, or maybe give us the top 3 tournaments that you would travel out of state and across town, or take a jet and fly around the world for?
Well, we did it for sure for New Zealand. Once we played that, we came right back. That was a no brainer. The Japan Open is always special too, as far as international, locations, things like
That's
that.
tough to beat.
I haven't played a lot of tournaments in Europe. I've got a couple course designs in Europe, but I haven't played a ton of events over there. And I'll give the Corey Parker shout out because I have played the British Open over there, and Derek Robbins' place is absolutely phenomenal as well. Here in the States, I'm so proud of my Iowa folks. I really feel that, it may be a couple years in between, but, the 2004 Worlds was exceptional, and
It
still
was, no question about it.
many people's, historical terms, maybe the best Worlds of all time. But Iowa does have a multitude of events that kind of like have followed suit over the years to where I'm going to with this is the Des Moines Challenge. Everything just surrounding that event, so many auxiliary events like, Edge, our foundation was the benefactor, but we had, champs versus chumps versus the local disc golf club, and they showed out in droves. We had Joes versus pros, kickball with Des Moines club teams versus pro tour members, which was amazing. The course is phenomenal. The fans all show up, the barbecue, all that stuff. So that's a super special tournament. I do.
Well,
Go ahead.
you should go. I mean, like, honestly, anybody that hasn't played in Iowa has no idea what you're talking about. I mean, I've said this time and time again, and the events were just there recently, and man, it doesn't matter whether it's Des Moines or Rock Island or the Quad Cities. I mean, or even just like Jones Park. I mean, Scott or Darren Harper, Jeff Harper, excuse me. Jeff Harper's got several great designs over there in that state as well. And I mean, that's, man, if you want to look, if you're looking for a destination, a disc golf destination state, Iowa's definitely a disc golf destination state without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I think
yeah, for
most
sure.
people don't realize that. They're just like, what? Cornfields? I mean, come on. And it's like, yeah, no, seriously, go. You need to. It's something.
Any I'll give you know, out of the state championships, you know, we've been to quite a few of them. You can go to any Texas state any given year, and that is a time. Always on point with the courses that we played. This year's Texas State was a new location, and those guys just knocked it out of the park. You know, very exciting for anywhere that the Texas State goes. That's something that this huge Republic of Texas takes so much pride in, whether it's up north in Tyler or down in Houston. You know, it's always showcasing some of the best courses in Texas. You know, other tournaments that are kind of, you know, unfortunately, there's a bunch of them that I kind of went to for a number of years, and then it's weird, you know, once you miss that 1 year, all of a sudden that turns into 6, you know, and so there's so many events that I've lost a little bit of track of over the years. But you know, it's more, a lot of it's location type of things, you know. I got to play the US Masters in Oregon, and it was just so good to be back in the Northwest.
Yeah.
Different style of tournament, you know, it's like everybody's just a little bit, you know, more kind of casual, laid back, and we're understanding, you know, on the natural side of things, you know, more than the competitive side. I can respect that and enjoy that. You know, anything over Maple Hill is always a amazing time. Yeah, Michigan always puts on a good tournament in almost everywhere I've been there. You know, and I'll go back to the
There's
roots
a
of
lot
the
of really good places there too. I mean, that's,
Wisconsin tour. You know, any stop on the Wisconsin tour's got something happening to it.
oh, and then, you know, and then that's definitely one of my favorites too, without a doubt. It's, you know, I just got back from that trip to Tacoma, and the I rolled in on 84 and rolled out on 90. And I had never been through Eastern Portland or Eastern Oregon or Washington. And man, you know, I think I'm gonna have to start cheating on South Carolina with Portland, with Oregon, you know, because I mean, it's just, I love South Carolina, but I mean, I was definitely questioning all week, like, why are you leaving here? What, I mean, why? I mean, I know you got to get these 5 glass pieces back, but again, why are you leaving here?
uh, you know, I'll throw out another, like, you know, private ranches are something special too, you know, and anytime you can kind of, I think, find a tournament that like is on somebody's private property, that is going to bring an entire different element, whether they're PDGA sanctioned or not, you know. Like, I think if I lived out in North Carolina, you know, I would have been on the homegrown tour, you know,
Oh,
for
for sure.
years. Is what, you know, Chuckster was doing out there with all the different private courses was just, you know, from somebody looking in from afar, like, wow, I'm envious of that kind of situation. And
And it's,
something
well,
that
and
fell
that,
out of that book, that Des had, which is hilarious. I'll give a shout out to one of my favorite private ranches here, is Moody's
oh,
Disc
nice.
Country Club in Red Rock. This is hilarious. Obviously, we got a Kenny signed. This is number
Wow.
1 of 2 from Zam, who's a great disc golf artist. That's one of our bookmarks. You know, that's hilarious.
Wow. That's
But
awesome.
throw that out there. A couple new ranches in Texas that I haven't even played, like the Gerinator, the Hideaway up in North.
Yeah, I haven't played either one of those yet either.
Yeah,
I've
which
heard
is
the I haven't actually hadn't had it. I think one you have to have an invite for, and then the Hideaway you can just go and pay and play.
yeah.
And
And
then
Mr.
Brock's
B,
got one too.
you guys were pretty infamous men with hats there. You guys, right? I mean, private courses. You've got
Yeah.
something to throw into there.
We still do it every year. We've hooked into a new place. It's just about an hour and a half north of here, and you know, private land. We bring in all the courses or the baskets and the tees and flags and all that, and I bring in, the rentals for the gear and the DJ rig and all my vinyl, and I get a little crazy with the controlled and illicit substances and go crazy all weekend playing beats. It's great. And that's the other thing is like when you're doing on private land, especially when you're doing non-sanctioned, is you can have music just rocking in the background. And that just like in the same way that a private setting changes the vibe, having music going on, especially good Mr. B tunes, it changes it.
And I'll throw another story in there. So we'll go back to 2004 Worlds, and I was the entertainment chair. I worked incredibly hard to kind of create some of my own budget. I teamed up with Duflex, which was that's a agricultural cow tag company. Those
Oh, yeah.
rubber tags. And so I got them to laser engrave the World's logo and numbers, and I did a nationwide bag tag challenge, which some people met up with people across the country and had these amazing little stories, but it's hard to find like a bunch of these tags in one area unless maybe you were in Iowa. But it was more, the thing was more about you just basically sponsored the World Championships.
Being a low-level sponsor, yeah. I
That's
remember
right.
those tags.
And this ended up providing thousands of dollars. And so, when I was kind of looking at, what, we're going to have music every night. They know this is a serious sanctioned, world championship, but some people are here to, we're here to all win a world title, but maybe by day 4 or 5 or back
Not
then,
so much.
around 9 or 10, we're there to blow off some steam. So, who else better to bring in? I brought in, Mr. B all the way from Quebec, spin tunes. And I still think the field events like that, I just remember walking around and participating and checking in on people and having, your custom tunes kind of jamming out. I mean, it didn't matter whether you were throwing distance or putting or whatever. The day just was something to just, have a good time with. And I think we need more of that in the sport as we grow. I love what Jeff Spring brings to, the Smuggler's Notch up there with the Fall Fest and things where, at the end of the hard day, there's some world-class entertainment. But it always also has befuddled me that same thing that binds us all together, which is that love of the airfoil, doesn't necessarily mean that my music is the same music that you like. Right. And some of the bands that I brought in that were phenomenal ended up getting like just mediocre turnouts, and some of the other ones had other things with it, like the Fly Mart was absolutely bizarre. We had such a good little jazz band in there, but it unfortunately drowned out everybody trying to talk about discs and frisbees. So it kind of, there's a happy medium in there somewhere.
Well,
Yeah,
that was
for
that
sure.
was where the Good Times idea was born. Mason and I had the Good Times Players Party and putting tournament in I think that was the main tournament hotel. I don't know if there were two.
There's the secondary one at the Holiday Inn.
Okay, but I just remember.
Yeah, we had the hospitality suite going over there, and
are you talking about now? So there was the main hotel, and then there was Mars Hotel.
We were at the Holiday Inn, which was around. It wasn't the main; it was the secondary hotel.
But did we do the Good Times party at the main hotel? I feel like we did.
I don't remember that.
Well, the Mars Hotel was another whole deal because they were the overflow, and they were definitely the benefactor of this incredible all-you-can-eat disc golf tournament. And one of the only things that we had lined up with those guys was like, look, you have the humongous parking lot without all of the world's people. So can we have one of the dinners there? So IV was gracious enough to like, yeah, we'll kick in a low level cost, Iowa pork chop dinner. And then, I'm Becky Zalek, miss that woman.
For sure.
She's such a go-getter, and her and I were brainstorming like pork chops. Well, what else? Maybe, what time of year it is? Like, we got to have sweet corn. And then there was just like, oh yeah, we'll see how much that adds to the budget. And I'm like, oh, I'll use entertainment dollars. Like, I don't just want sweet corn. I want all you can eat, butter dripping down your face, and
roasted corn.
somebody just told me this story at Worlds this last week of like, that's his big memory of Jay Redding, being like, oh, and just wait for the Iowa feeds the worlds, because it's kind of a play on what Iowa does. And as you're going to have the most explosive peaches and cream, sweet corn that you've ever had, and this guy's still like, I can still taste it today, Jay. I've never had corn, anything like it. And so it's hilarious. And that was such a great meal. And that hotel ended up just getting riotous. It was maybe some good times hours and some other things in there. But the big deal that I had brokered with the hotel is like, look, we definitely want beer and alcohol. And that's going to be your big return, but if it does so good, you got to cut us back in the action. Maybe I can pay for the corn and the meal by just a little kickback from this alcohol sales, stuff like that. And so, after the event kind of, I'm going in there to, do the requisition and, get like, okay, how much, like, let's see the numbers, how'd we do, and they're like, all of a sudden I walked into a room and there's like 3 suits in there and I'm like, this isn't good. And I'm just like, I mean, Worlds is great. Yep. Oh, you guys were a ton of fun. Everything was awesome, but we're not going to pay you any money. And I'm just like, oh, well, that's kind of wasn't part of our deal. And then they're like, look, we had several families check back out of those hotels because of the obnoxious odors and different noises that were going on at all time of the night. And, I'm just like, well, you can't blame that all on us, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, look, we also had like 15 training canine units there that were going to
that was our hotel for sure.
For training, and just for funsies, they were like, well, yeah, we'll check it out. It wasn't any big sting or anything like that, but just casually, there was like, oh yeah, I mean, it'll be great for my dog. I'll run them down the halls and we'll see what we can find. And they're like, you know what? This dog was so confused on which door was actually, fumigating that, we just, threw up our arms and said, you know what, we're not paying anything to anybody. And I hope everybody had fun. And it was great having everybody. And thanks a lot. And I smiled and backed out the door.
Yeah. I had a similar conversation with the manager of that and it was based on the fact that the first day of competition, she brought me in the office and she told me, she said, hey, look, we got 3 groups of people at the hotel this week. She goes, I got people that are driving up and down 80 on family vacations. They're a big priority of mine. She said, I also have this annual contract 50 weeks out of the year where I have law enforcement people. We have a different groups every week, and they go out to the Air Force Base and they train their dogs. And then we have you. And I know your friends talk to you and they listen to you, and you need to have a word with them and let them know that we're not going to let you guys run them other 2 groups of people off. So you need to start behaving a little better, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not going to go any further, but there was definitely more to the conversation than that. And well, I will say this, I learned in that conversation, it still remains true today, is that when you stay in a hotel room, hang that do not disturb sign on your door, and you have a lot of protection in that. And she basically told me that she wasn't allowed to bring anybody into that room with that sign on that door. So I don't know if that's 100% the same in every other state, but she was 100% about it there. And I was like, all right, thanks. Appreciate all that information. And I'll tell my friends to behave. So
it was a phenomenal World on so many levels. Courses were great. The auxiliary events were great. It just, man, it was just everything kind of came together. I mean, we shut down an entire, city block in the capital of a state for a street party just for us. I thought that was pretty great way to kind of end the entire week of crowning a bunch of super cool world champions.
Well, and that was the first time it was combined. And I remember Nolan and I went through the year before, 2 years before, I guess. Yeah, it was probably 2 years before. And we were doing a mace band doubles there on a Saturday. Obviously, the king of all, or the queen of all, Becky Z, had the promotion going, and there was probably 60 or 70 people. And I think we had like we had an event in the morning, and then we went and ate lunch, and then she drove us around and she showed us all these different places. She showed us all the courses. She told us about the tournament hotels. She told us about High V being a sponsor. And I mean, like it was, it was a day with Becky Z. And at the end of the day, she says to me, she goes, "What do you think, Brian? You think they'll give us the worlds?" And I go, "Becky," I go, "seriously, nobody's worked this hard on their presentation ever, ever." And of course, and nobody wants to run them both. Nobody really wants to run Pro Worlds right now at all. Yes, they're absolutely going to give it to you. I mean, it's already yours. You just haven't been told yet. And she was like, "You really think so?" And I was like, "Of course I think so." And of course, she, with the backup of all y'all, I mean, I'd have to say that was definitely one of my favorite events as well. I mean, it's that one in 95 Am Worlds was epic. And anybody that went to that will tell you still to this day that, hey, that still rates up there as one of the best events they ever went to. And
Where was that?
it was in Cincinnati. It was before Kerry Keith lost his taste for the game. Probably the best way of putting it. But again, I can't say enough about them, about Iowa, about the surprise. I mean, you don't think there's terrain change, you don't think there's big trees, you don't think I mean, the lush green grass that's on almost every course in Iowa alone. I mean, you just get out there and you want to take your socks and shoes off, throw them back in the car, and just play barefoot, because it's not like here.
And that's how I'll conclude that, Mr. B. That question is just, I encourage folks, if you haven't played out of state, and not like maybe just across the river state, but like another state in another region, like, please treat yourself. Even if it's not a humongous tournament, you can go to places like Ledgestone and Peoria and DDO and Emporia and some of these monstrosity events, and there's tons of stuff to do, and all these things are great. But if you really want like regional flavor, go play Louisiana States. Go to Montana and play Zootown Open.
Dude, I just drove through Montana.
Yeah, go play some of these events that, a lot of times B tiers are kind of that happy medium, because it's more than just more of a casual tournament. They're actually putting in a bunch of effort, and they want to bring some people in and show them a good time. And then you can actually, plug your nose and really get local.
Well, that's it. We might have to cut this off at some point, so we may not get to it. But certainly one of the things that I did want to eventually touch on was your absolute zest for life, your passion for not just going to a new place to play a tournament, but living like a local, looking at the things that the locals look at, going to eat where the locals go to eat, and really experiencing, the totality of the travel. And you've been in person virtually on the travel for the last 20 plus years. And your whole idea about being outdoorsy and backpackers, we almost met. The first time we met face to face was there in a Des Moines hotel room, after me driving across however many states and the province of Ontario. But we almost met the year before. You and Des were, she's just freshly minted world champ, and you were going to come to Toronto. Toronto at the time, I was running the Super Tour A tier Toronto Island Open. But at some point in the process leading up to the event, the unionized outdoor workers, that included the garbage contract workers and the ferry, more key, the people who worked at the ferry terminals, they all went out on strike. And so I remember having to make the call to postpone the tournament, and it was really nicely situated in a place in the tour. And I remember you and I talked. You called up and you were like, "Hey man, what's going on with this tournament? There's rumor out there that you're canceling it." And I was like, "Well, we can't do it without the ferries." And you're like, well, Des and I will just canoe across. We're just going to park on, wherever we park. We'll just throw the canoes in the water and we'll get over there." And I'm thinking, well, and my first thought was, who is this jackass? It's like a mile across the bay. What is he going to ferry everybody else in the tournament across there too? But I had to delay actually meeting you for a year, but that was that was how close our paths could have crossed. But just
That's awesome.
I have there's a really great little story that you told me, and you know, it starts with the Timmel 2016. That was the first time that I got to do intros for you guys, and you were really you liked it. You thought it was fun, especially when I, you know, referenced the sugar ham to be FedEx to you. Still waiting on that. And you took that and it kind of nestled in your brain and was something. When I called you early in August in 2021, there's a guy, a local here, a kid who is Adam Beatty is his name for anyone out there checking. And he had cornered the market in Yeti Pro AVRs. So I just decided I'm going to call Yeti and maybe I'll get him to record an intro for this guy. And you did. You recorded a wonderful. I wish I had it available right now, but on the day of, it was the second round, and the first day I can't remember. I couldn't be there for whatever reason, so I was doing it remote. But the second day was my first day that he got to see me doing this. And so when he's on the tee, I'm starting, and I'm like, you know what? I let my friend Jay take over here, and I hit play. And at first he's like looking like he doesn't understand, what is this? What's going on? Does this apply to me? And then the dawning realization, this is the Yeti. He's calling my intro. And he spins around and looks at me like with a new light, like, what the hell is this guy? How does this guy even know Yeti to be able to get this intro? He ended up winning the tournament, but like that just pumped his tires huge. Now, when I had that conversation with you prior to just before the event to ask you to do that, you told me this great story about your own intro action. Remember that? You were at an event, I think it was an AM tournament, and I think it was either a playoff or a final nine just for the AMs, the top AM group. And they asked you to just introduce the people. And so you had gone out and filtered among the crowd of the people who were playing, the poor people, and just asking random questions. What's your favorite pizza, or what do you like? And you took that information and then you used that to craft your own intros for these guys. And they were all blown away.
Love it. Yes. And I actually am still kind of doing that the last couple of years at the National Amateur Disc Golf Tour Championship. And it's the kind of cat's out of the bag now, but you know, because some players are like, oh, wait a second. I don't know if I want to answer that question, because then you fold it into some kind of introduction that like takes my mind off of the, you know, task at hand. So, you know, I try to keep them fairly lighthearted and appropriate. And, you know, yeah, that's actually good. That was a great story. I appreciate that.
Well, now we've already kind of talked about the world. So Mace, why don't you take the in the bag, get to know our guy who likes to throw.
All right. So what is in your bag? What do you got? What do you got? What are you carrying right now?
Well, the turn since that disc came out has really been a great distance driver for me, with you know, aging, arm speed slowing down, all of these different aspects. The turn has been a wonderful disc for me. And as far as like newer discs that like are out, even though this disc isn't new, a buddy that I played against, MJ Cooper in the 50, you know, he was just like, man, Jay, I keep seeing your game here, and I really think you should give this disc a try, you know. And he hands me a Halo Mamba. You know, I remember when the Mamba first came out, and I kind of made fun of it, and you know, like, it's a good roller disc and things like that. And then I dismissed it for then on. I did recommend it to, you know, older players and beginners and things like that, but you know, there's something about the Halo plastic is kind of, you know, over accentuates the stability on almost everything that it's applied to. And so this Mamba, Halo Mamba, in fact, I threw off the tee 80% of the time at the Masters World Championship here because of in Flagstaff, because of the 7,000 feet elevation. So that disc all of a sudden now has got a new addition to my bag. My bag's been pretty stable over quite a few years. You know, if we go down the line, then, you know, I like a I like a destroyer for some, over stability, long drives, Thunderbird, T-Bird, Roadrunner, Leopard. Then I get into kind of the mid ranges, and the Mako and Rock all have their place right there in different ages. And then, yep, I usually putt with a brand new Yeti, changing that out maybe twice a year. And then usually when I feel like it's just kind of quite, lost its putting mojo, or it's got a couple dings on it, you want to keep it clean and things like that, it switches to a thrower. So, I'm still throwing and putting, exclusively with Yetis, and I love those as well. So that's a pretty good rundown of the discs in my current lineup for sure.
I saw a video, I think it was the In the Bag video that you did with Innova, which was great, by the way. You're a natural comedian, a natural camera. You're beautiful in front of the camera, but your putters at the time were yellow. Is that your go-to color preference for putters?
I do love the yellow putter. However, a couple runs later, Innova started coming out with this turquoise blue. Oh man, blue being the favorite color, this turquoise blue just kind of, just been jamming with those quite a bit. And then I've got some Glow Yeti AVRs that are just now out with my tour stamps the last couple years, and those are fun to throw as well. I'm a big proponent of Glow Golf, always have been. It's a little bit more difficult for me to play nowadays with bad knees and those those oopsie daisy holes that can
Kicking stumps and buried rocks, and
knock me out for forever. But I will tell a great Glow story that wasn't so long ago. My first time out to play, there's a series of a fall and a spring event in Conifer out in Colorado. And this area of Colorado is magical. Talk about private courses. They've got like 12 private courses within just a few square miles of each other. And a lot of them are reservable or, pay to play reservable type of things. But the public course at Conifer and Bailey, they have the Harvest and the Bloom, and both fantastic tournaments run there. And so I went out there for one of those, and I didn't have time to acclimatize. So, oh boy, I was put on the feature card, and I played with some great players like Joel Freeman, who ruled the mountain with a forehand, of course, throwing away from the down, and JC Kester, one of the best thumbers of all time. And these guys just, whoa, forehand and plop over. Like, meanwhile, I'm like, oh, that's going to be parked. See ya. I'd fall down the mountain, and by the end of the round, all of a sudden I birdied the last 4 holes because it's like, trial by fire, here we are. So I was a little depressed, but then, it was like that night, there was a 10-hole little short course, and it's like, hey, we're having a Glow tournament, and a lot of times pros these days, I get it, man. There's a ton of money on the line, all these things, but again, you're at the tournament, live your best life, attend the fly mark, go to the music, go to eat the dinner, go to, I've always been that kind of guy. So Glow, all right, I'm going to do it. All right. They randomly put me on a card. I was with, 3 other cats that I'd, never met before. And, I had my Glow disc, and, all right. Yep. Birdie. Next thing you know, so we're playing 2 loops of 10. And we get the last hole on the first loop, and the guy's like, bro, you haven't missed any. He's like, have you played this course before? And I'm like, never. I was like, I'm going for the Glow lights. I don't even know where I'm going. And I made the 10 in a row. And they're like, well, I mean, that's great. It's not like, unheard of, but man, way to go. We have to do another loop of 10. And so by the time we got about to, 12, 13, 14, I still haven't missed. People are just like, who are you? And I'm making, 40, 50 footers in the dead dark. And they're just, and then, some like things like, oh my gosh, like this guy, like this guy is somebody, type of thing. And I ended up going 20 down out of 20 holes. And, that was the talk of the tournament all the next day. And You know, we won't talk about my 8th place finish, but you know, hey, I did win the glow event.
See,
Nice.
you're amongst simpaticos here. We're all about living for the party, the moment, the personality, the big, who's going to contribute most to just the atmosphere of it all,
Mm, good way to live.
Good way to live. So, let's just talk quickly about your playing career and something that I'd mentioned earlier. Your first pro win comes in 2003. You're playing in a field of 16. It's the Cedar Rapids Open, and you win $193. By the way, you've got a win in MPO every year since 2006. That's a pretty sweet. Guys who, start to get a little older, they start losing touch with wins in the MPO, and you've won not just little flex start ones either. You've been pretty consistent that way. But
That's cool. I didn't know that. Thank you.
2003, your debut win, well, not your debut, but your first win comes there. Your first Masters win comes in the very first year, and thank goodness for the PGA eligibility, changing it to, because you're a December baby, you could take advantage of the entire touring season.
Yeah.
Yes. And so you did. Victoria Open 2010, early, I think that's in mid-February 2010. And there's only 15 players and you're $335 cash. So even though you're getting older, you're still winning, and you're winning more than you were to start your pro career. 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? Wasn't the year that you were turning 50, because you oh no, it was 2020, sorry. You take your first MP50 win at the Texas State Championships, beating by 7 strokes fellow Hall of Fame, Texas Hall of Fame inductee Vinnie Miller, and you take home $1,300 in cash. This is a wonderful trajectory you're on. So just wait till the 60s and 70s. Greenwell, you just lay the road, the yellow brick road now.
Yeah,
Okay?
but Greenwell's going to be playing in the 80s and 90s by then.
No,
So,
but the bricks he's establishing now, you're going to walk on that road. Come soon.
all right. So listen, since we're talking about, this has popped into my head twice tonight, and since we're talking about your playing career, and you mentioned earlier that you've had, well, I don't remember exactly how you put it, but you've played for 26 years. You've been able to continue touring and playing, but you've also had a serious background support with Edge and you guys' side hustles and everything like that. And I'm just curious what you think about this question. And do you think that support is what made it possible for you to continue the success as a player throughout your 40s and your 50s? And that being having that's a serious catcher's mitt there that you don't, like, a lot of guys. I mean, even the champ and the other champ went through some dark periods in their playing careers where, there wasn't much for them because that was what they had. They didn't have something else working for them, and they kind of hit the wall. And it's not just them. There's been a lot of guys and gals that have done that before you and just got to a point where, in their 50s or in their 40s, obviously, not even in their 50s, they just got, and probably a lot of them even in their 30s were just like, man, I can't keep up anymore, and I can't continue to feed the family this way. And so I've got to make some decisions where, your family has been feeding itself with disc golf off of the course from the playing standpoint. So what do you think about that? I mean, I think that's pretty valid, and I know you pretty well. I wouldn't necessarily just shoot that question at anybody else, but I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that had to have taken some weight off your shoulders from a playing standpoint and made it a little bit easier for you to, put in some time in to keep up, and not necessarily put in the pressure on yourself, because you did have other things to keep up with too.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's first say, the Educational Disc Golf Experience is a nonprofit organization, which, the ongoing joke in the nonprofit world is 501c3 is actually tax code for we're broke,
Right.
because, now 20 years later, we've established a pretty good, footing within the disc golf world. We've got so many amazing, gracious contributors that help Edge do what it does. But I can tell you, we never, ever, ever, ever would or have got into Edge or benefited Edge for any financial, like
Well,
windfall.
okay, so listen now, let me clarify. I'm not saying that you were putting a bunch of money in your pocket, but
No,
certainly
no,
you've had to been
I get
picking up
it.
some
No,
paychecks.
I know where you're going, Mace, and it's a valid question and a good one. And I think we have to actually go back even a little bit farther than that and think about like, okay, that's right. I mean, Jay and Des started a business when they first got out of college, and that was just us being us. And in the end, we were making more in the summer than I was as a contract teacher. And that's, unfortunately a bing on our national education, what we pay teachers and educators. But, when we did decide to like go full-time disc golf, we took that business and we actually split it up into 3 separate businesses, and we sold each one of them. And that was a great one. We came out of college debt free, scholarship athletes, that's another, fantastic step forward that, Des and I had on our sides. Neither one of us come from, any, family background like that. So I think being athletes, the first thing that we saw was like, look, I really want this game to be a sport. I really want to see this game be on that world stage, and it just ain't happening. I mean, like in the near future, as much as we want to think it's 5 years down the road, it's not. And we kind of could see that crystal ball a little bit. And so, all right, then let's form some solutions here. Let's help found an organization that's actually going to build the foundation and the base of the pyramid that's going to allow for the future, for a steady flow of new players into the game, fans that eventually will start buying discs of signature players and become fans and create an economy that way. And then 2, let's figure out how Jay and Des actually can create a positive income flow outside of trying to, eat on tournament dollars. And we've told people in our clinics from early on, like when, hey, I'm going to go on tour, what's your best advice and stuff. And I'm like, well, the biggest thing is like pay for all of your tournaments up front. Money gone, you never had it. And then make sure you got an account that's going to provide you enough funds to go from one tournament to the next.
Yeah.
Then you're good to go. You can live life and be happy, and the pressure is off. And then when you do cash, treat yourself right and go to Six Flags on Monday. Go to that concert next Thursday that you've been wanting to go, but those tickets are $100. Use the money coming in from tournament winnings as like, crazy cash. That's your like, all right, I'm going to save up and buy myself a scooter, or whatever it is. So we right away started running clinics everywhere we could. We were running, because there was 2 of us. Des had world titles already. I was winning putting world championships. We won the mixed doubles world title that first 2002 Houston Worlds before Des won her actual world title against Barry Schultz and Sheila Kirkham. We played against those guys. And, so we had some clout. I was a teacher, we put together these clinics that were actually really incredibly well attended. I mean, we averaged 50 people, 20 years ago. And,
That's
some people
amazing.
look back and are like, that is unbelievable. I mean, Mace, man, you ran doubles and things like that. And those are good numbers for just people.
Those are huge numbers.
For listen to you talk. And we
Mhm.
never charged, and we still don't. We gave away the clinics for free because it was something that we felt would help perpetuate the sport. However, if you liked what you heard, check out our merch booth. We've got some cool custom discs and things from all over our world travels, and people, it was really a good system because people felt like, oh my gosh, that was $100 clinic. You bet I'm going to buy, a few discs and things like that. So we really had a positive income flow coming that way. Our sponsors definitely recognize that. Innova was great for realizing, like, yeah, you guys are some special clinicians out there, and we need to acknowledge that in your player agreements and things like that. So we broke a lot of ground for future players based on what we were kind of doing. Innova was always willing to listen to some kind of a plan or an idea that's going to obviously benefit them somehow in the near and long term. But they were always, willing to kind of chipping away at that. And if I look back, one of the most amazing things that Paul Macbeth did was he put a true financial value to putting your name on the disc. And that was something, we would tell all of our sponsors, like, look, guys, we need you to support us when we go to these B tiers. Like, when we all show up at the big show in the A tier, we all kind of hang out together and talk about the course and strategize and things like this. But when we go to these B tiers, we're eating sandwiches in the parking lot and, hanging out with the people, and we're shaking hands, and we actually have more impact on a local community hanging out at a smaller event being big fish than all of the big fish kind of being behind the ropes and being hard to get to. And that was really not understood at the corporate level. And Paul Macbeth broke through by actually, like, all right, let's put a name on a disc and let's actually see what this actually does. And, I think it really turned the tables. And then, Paul, of course, was very open with, his contractual obligations, where Des and I were kind of like, it's kind of, it's our private, business. And, people asked us, but nobody really asked us. So it's just like, well, I'm not going to just throw, like, oh, we're getting this and we're doing
No need
this.
to kiss and tell.
We've never been those kind of folks. But I think when you look back at, that second generation of touring disc golfers, there's, Des and I, did a number of really progressive things that really helped build those coffers. And, they've all led to being able to make this an absolute career. And as far as Edge goes, man, I would love actually to have a dollar per hour kind of thing on what we put into that whole, amazing organization. But it's been a labor of love, and it's something, we're very passionate always about leaving it better than we found it. And, shaking as Joe Rotan likes to say, shake the trees and share the fruit. And, just a lot of that give back stuff, it's true in life, the more you give, the more you get. And, I think Edge has definitely provided that aspect of a lot of avenues and doors that have helped keep on having us in demand and things like that, So hope that answers your question a little bit.
Oh, dude, you've been answering all of our questions. The thing is, we're soaking up a lot of your time here, and it is getting late. I think we should. We've got more than enough material here to have you on for another show if you'd be interested in rejoining us at some point, because there's just almost virtually endless amounts of topics to talk to you about, and really interesting, fascinating stories you've been sharing so far. And I really love what you're just saying about really focusing on the youth as a long-term strategy for the sport of the growth, because a rising tide lifts all boats. And that kind of visionary thinking down the road like that, an investment in the future, is what really, I think a lot of people, a lot of pioneers have been looking at that way. But a lot of people, when they look at fast trends on the dot-com bubbles, on the quick invest and out, they don't see those, I think, what is that wise proverb? The wise man plants a tree that he knows he'll never sit in the shade of. And that's kind of what, you guys were doing.
Yeah, I think a cool perspective for people is, like, when we first started touring, again, coming from a backpacker background, there was no van life. Van life wasn't even in existence at the time. And Des and I toured for 7 years in not even a mid-size, a small, a Chevy S10 extended cab with
Ridiculous.
with
Like
a
the two
topper.
biggest people on tour in the smallest vehicle on tour for 7 or 8 years. I remember talking to you about this a bunch of times and just going, I don't understand how the two of you tall folks can get comfortable, because I was driving in a little bigger vehicle, but not much, and I still was uncomfortable. Just a little bigger vehicle.
The reason we could canoe, we challenged the canoe across to the Toronto Island Open is because we traveled with
With
a
the canoe.
hand-built cedar strip canoe that we had built. And, we took that around, and when we weren't playing disc golf, you saw us fishing and paddling, in the areas, waterways. And, we camped everywhere. In fact, this trip to Flagstaff for Worlds was hilarious because we still stayed in the national park. However, we were cushed out in our RV, and circa 2003, which Des got second place in, we camped in a national forest in a tent for 2 weeks. We didn't even we had thermarests and a little solar shower. I mean, and we lived that life and competed, and that's one of the things. Again, like you guys are bringing a really cool, like a lot of flood of like kind of really pride, and I think it's important for again that foundation of where the sport has come from and things like that. It is incredibly difficult to make that life. Living on the road is incredibly difficult. You
Well,
guys know
and
that tremendously.
it's even
And
harder if you're not a road dog. If you don't have a vagabond heart, then it's. I mean, I keep I've mentioned these people, but like I remember Dagan Owen. I mean, when Dagan came out on tour, he was having a great time, but it didn't last very long, and and he had to go home. And it was. I remember talking to him about it, and I go, look, dude, I tell these guys in entertainment all the time, look, you get out there on your first tour, and all you are is homesick, and it doesn't go away, and they're like in the third week and you still feel that way, you need to go ahead and quit and go home,
that's
because
for sure.
you
You
should get
can't
over
force it.
homesickness the first week. If you're in the third week and you're homesick, it ain't gonna go away.
Yeah. You can't force it. And you guys will enjoy getting into this with Des, but she got first or second place for 9 world championships in a row. And that was right in the heart of where we were doing so much to make things happen for ourselves as well. And once that stuff starts happening, it's really incredibly hard to concentrate on actually being an elite athlete. We kind of saw this a little bit with Paige Pierce, and when she got involved with a lot of things outside and around the sport that weren't actually playing to win. We're seeing a little bit of it with Paul Macbeth right now. His foundation is on full tilt, and he's paying attention a lot to that and some other things going on in his world with a new course in Florida and different things like that. It is incredibly, incredibly tough, and this is where I'm so proud of Des being such an amazing woman and athlete, and my own successes, that we were able to juggle all of these other things to make it happen, yet still show up and be on the lead card and cash and do all these other great things within the sport. So it can be done. It just takes a lot of work, and I'm so happy that the money and the funding is now there for players purely on the payout side, on the elite level, that they actually can just be an athlete if they want. Yeah. They can actually eat organic food, or in the case of Ezra Aderhold, build that body with beans. Des and I were watching coverage today. We're just like, man, look at those Baracho bean biceps and the Anyway, it's good stuff, man. So great hanging with you guys. You guys bring a great perspective as well, and much respect and love for both of you throughout our disc golf career, and we'd be friends outside of disc golf no matter what.
I think back to you and I had a conversation a couple of years ago, and you were threatening to come up and work some Christmas lights with me, like when the pandemic was making things a little thin, and it was, that's always on the table, but that it wasn't so much that part of the conversation that really stuck with me. It was, when I got done, I was like, man, I sure miss that guy. I mean, just you and I have had a lot of conversations in a lot of different places, as have B and I. And, and that's one of the things that I really, man, I had a great time those 2 days in Flagstaff, but I was on a different mission on that trip, going, to Portland, and then on to Seattle, Tacoma, to be involved with making those glass pieces. But like even just now, you mentioned it too, that whole trip for me, like it's the first one since my dad passed where I was able to just go, hey, yeah, you know what? 10 days, is that what it's going to take? Well, shit, I can make it 11. Maybe I'll make it 12, and got out there, and man, I really do miss the wander. I really do. It's I really had a hard time coming home. I just wanted to keep on going.
Yeah,
Well,
no doubt. Well, and that's in your blood too, Mason. I'll finish with the story since I told one about Mr. B. I'll tell one about you that made me think of some of our early interactions here. And I remember distinctly us, Des and I were pulling through Dallas, Fort Worth, and I wasn't sure how much actual, Fort Worth culture, this kid from Kansas had hanging out in the big DFW vortex. But you know what? Des and I are coming to Texas, and we're gonna, by gosh, we're gonna see the legendary Willie Nelson, and we're gonna do it. And we're going to the biggest honky tonk in the entire world, and that's at Billy Bob's down in the Stockade. And so we call up Mace.
Stockyards,
We're like, I hope you're not doing anything tonight because you're going to Willie Nelson with us. And he's like, well, I guess I am. And
No. Wait. There's another chapter to that. At first you talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
And I go, dude, I've already seen Willie. I go, guys our size get fucking some jerk bumps into us to start a fight in a honky tonk. I go, oh, nah, I'm out. And then you guys come to town. You go, hey, we got you a ticket anywhere you're going. We're coming to pick you up right now. That was
nice.
more of the story.
That is very true. That is very true. So we get there, and sure enough, Mace Man was exactly right there. In fact, at one point, I even saw a bunch of these guys in cowboy hats standing around a little circle jerk with a $20 bill in the middle of the floor, and I think they were just waiting for some asshat to reach in there and be like, "See if I can sneak this 20 out of here," and they're going to knee him in the head. It's like, look at this little setup over here. It's like, man, this is a true honky tonk. And so, Willie was playing and the place was raging, and man, we were having such a good time. And, Billy Bob's is huge, and they actually have a full scale rodeo.
Bull riders.
Yeah, bull riders and everything. And we weren't even there, enough to enjoy that part of it, but it had been going on earlier in the night. So something that was new to me, Mace and I are laughing our butts off when we're coming around a corner and it's all loud and everything. And I'm like, did you see those boots? And apparently Boots was mistaken because all of a sudden this woman whoops around. She goes, yeah. And I was like, and I actually was talking about the rodeo guys' boots that actually had lace up, sneaker boots. I'd never seen those before in my life.
And these boots, the leggings went almost to his knees, and they were like blue with white leather weaving all up the legs, and it was just like cowboy boots, except for there was laces, like it tied up from like the ankle down, not quite all the way to the toe, but they were pointy, and he was one of the bull riders.
Yeah,
me and Dad, we're waiting on Des. We're waiting on Des, and we're totally people watching it up. And it wasn't the only, like, obviously the lady was one of that deals too. And we were just like, I was like, oh, wait, hey, look at this over here. You see this over here, And then that dude came around, and me and Jay were just like, we couldn't stop talking about it. And then Des comes out of the bathroom, and she's like, what the hell are you two up to? And we're like, hold on. He's coming back. He just went in the bathroom. Wait till you see this guy. And he come out, and we didn't even have to point him out. She saw the boots too, and we were losing it, man. Just losing it.
Never seen anything like it. Good time. That is a good time hour.
Couple hours.
We're a little sloppy in our chronologies, but we're always there about the good times for sure. And nothing is more fantastic than Frisbee friendships, fun that that's the continuous thread. That's the white leather patent design that runs through the boot of our show. And just seeing people smile. Smiles are viral. When you see people smile, you can't help but smile yourself. And honestly, I don't think I've ever seen neither you nor Des not smiling out there. And that's, there's a lot to be said about your consistency, your professionalism, your record of achievement, everything you've given back. But you've done it all with such grace and with that wonderful smile. So keep your chin up, keep smiling, keep giving the Yeti yell out there. And you know, let's have you on for another show so we can continue on with the rest of all this wonderful material we get to go through.
Yeah, we only got to page 5 of B's script, so you know, we still got it. We could probably go another couple hours at some point.
We totally could.
Good times indeed.
Good times, my friend. There you go. All right, brother. Be well. Safe travels wherever you go, and always look forward to the next possibility of seeing you in person again.
Mm,
Right on,
likewise,
Jay.
guys.
Thanks for stopping by, and safe travels going forward. And if nothing else, we'll see you in Rock Hill.
Sounds awesome, guys. Take care.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, brother.
Yeah, cheers.
Oh, here we go.